Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes.
So should I start, sir?
Start. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So today's presentation is about how I'm using supporting psychotherapy with hypnotherapy techniques. To be honest, I haven't used fully-fledged hypnotherapy techniques other than a few clients of mine because I was very dicey. How would that go? And in the last year when we met in Barodara for the first meet of AOH, that's the time when I spoke to all my teachers again, and they were like, you need to start working. And that's the reason I'm even presenting today. So starting off, I'm presenting first with an individual case study. I would not be going into much details of the jargons about the disease or the illness that we'll be going through. I'll try to make it as simple as possible so it's easy for everyone to understand. So the intake information, what is this case
Now,
about?
to give a bit of background on me, my
Hello.
Please continue.
Yes. So, keeping the confidentiality in mind, the case that we're discussing today, we'll just address him as A. He's a 27-year-old male and he is psychologist by occupation. So he approached me for therapy with the following complaints. So his presenting complaints were he was not able to feel pleasure. He felt immense amount of guilt whenever he was happy. Recently, there has been an increase in alcohol intake. There was a lot of stress that he was going through because of increased responsibility. There was confusion about his career choices, whether he should stick to psychology or he should go to IT or some other field that would give him more money. uh, he also said that he keeps following a same pattern to escape problems. So whenever there's a problem, he might just go and read a lot of fictional books, or he might just start abusing alcohol. And this has been pattern for quite a few years. When asked about suicidal ideation, he said yes, he enjoys himself imagining himself killing himself a lot of times. So he has this imagination, maybe every 2 3 days, once in 2 3 days, he'll be thinking how what are the other ways or methods he can kill himself by. But the only reason he has not attempted any suicide yet is because according to him, he cannot justify his death. So when I asked him what does that mean, he said that I haven't been through anything in my life so severe or so big that I should die. So that's the only reason why I'm alive. I also asked him if there's any reason he's alive. So he said, no, I am alive because there is this purpose of life of suffering. And I'm here to suffer is the reason I am going to just go through with this suffering. And there has been a history of self-harm. That self-harm is something he has been doing since the age of, let's say, 16. So from the 10th, 9th, 10th standard, he has been doing self-harms occasionally whenever he needed. So I usually ask all my clients, what is the goal? What are they trying to seek through therapy? So he said, I just want to ease my decision-making process and want to find clarity. So I'll go session wise. So the first session that we had was basically history taking, where we went deeper into the history of the client, setting up goals. I explained the concept of conscious and subconscious mind. Him being a psychologist, he was well aware of what therapy is, how it works, and he actually did not believe in therapy. That was the only reason he approached me, because he thought maybe I should try for hypnotherapy. So because he was interested, I explained the process of hypnotherapy. I explained what is conscious, subconscious mind, the basics that Dr. Palan starts with, of how his conscious mind is just the tip of the iceberg and the subconscious is the for bigger part chunk below the water level. Uh, Not to forget, because he was a psychologist, there was no formal testing or diagnosing done because he was well versed with all the possible tests around. So a subject bias was something that was ought to come. So we did not go for formal testing. So in history taking, what we realized, also this is just a brief so that everyone can understand what are we looking at. So during history taking, these are the problems that we came up with. These are the issues that we came up with. So there has been a detached relationship with him and his parents. There has been a problem with his girlfriend. So he's in a relationship with this girl for 10 years, and it has been a long distance relationship. And there has been an on off breakup, patch up thing with her since all the years they were together. There has been a trauma caused by sexual exposure and abuse. So in this session, he did not exactly tell me what was that abuse or what was the exposure he's talking about, but he did point out that, okay, there are things that have happened in the past that cannot be disclosed. There was increased financial responsibility because the father was retiring, so he was in a dire need to search some kind of alternative to earn a lot of money. And he was working as a psychologist for last 2 years when he approached me, and there was no increase in pay scale. There was no new things, there was no growth opportunity, so that was also bothersome for him. So all of this is what we discussed in the first session. uh, First sessions are usually only for history taking and rapport building, where I assure the clients that everything that's spoken is going to be completely confidential. So we stick to that, and I explained the process, how if we go forward with hypnotherapy, how would that be, to which he agreed. So in the second session, I do not like to directly jump on hypnotherapy as soon as a client enters. There is a good half an hour, 45 minutes discussion, a proper counseling session, the therapy session that I usually have with all my clients that I take. Only after that, I induce trance. Uh, so in this session, in the second session, what we were talking about was this belief of why life is all about suffering. I tried asking him, can you question this belief? Why do you think life is about suffering? To which he came up with a lot of examples of how everything ends in suffering and pain. So I explained this concept to him that at times what happens is when we get any kind of hurt, when it is a physical wound, it's very easy to observe. And whenever there is a physical wound, what we tend to do is we clean that wound, we take care of that wound, put medicines, allow it to heal. But similarly, at times when there are such wounds mentally, which we all experience in our lifetime, what we tend to do is we just brush it off, saying that no, this is not important. Oh, this is such a normal thing. Oh, this is such a small thing. I am stronger than this incident. And we tend to brush off over those wounds. So maybe what is required by A is to go back and look if there are any such unhealed open wounds mentally that might be causing such strong belief structure about life is all about suffering. To which he said, okay, maybe as a homework, I can try looking back and coming up with things that could be something very important, but I might be brushing it off. Because he was having active ideas of dying and suiciding. There's another technique that I use with my clients, which is their age table. So what we tend to do is whatever the age of the client is, I tell them to make a table, like multiplication table. So his age was 26. So I told him to write a table of 26, and I tried to explain how at this age, if he decides that okay, I want another 26 years of my life to be something like I want. So maybe the previous 26 years were not as per what he wanted. There might be things that did not go his way. There might be issues that he couldn't control. So if there's a chance that you have today, or that you can relive or maybe live the way you want for the next 26 years, so that chance is lies today. But the only issue with this second chance, that's 26 into 2 wala chance, is that if you do not leave all the weight, if you don't try to resolve all the issues that you are holding inside today, that weight is going to multiply twice than the age that you're going to go through. So this usually helps them to understand that, okay, not just one. If you see normal life expectancy, what I try to tell them is around 70 to 80 years normally you might live. So basically you have two more chances. So अगले 26 years try कर लो. अगर इसमें कुछ ठीक नहीं हो रहा, फिर वापस 26 years try कर लो. But that chance is completely your choice if you want to take it or not. So that was another thing that we discussed. The third thing that we were talking about is this relationship, because that seemed to be bothering him a lot. So he kept telling that I know this relationship is not healthy. I know this relationship does this. It makes me feel unwanted. So I just asked him, then why are you in this relationship? Can you try answering that? So that was another thing. And while talking about this relationship, he also told that after 12th, he wanted to go to an art school. He did have an opportunity to go. But at the same time, there were a lot of issues with the girl he was involved with in his family, because of which he had to let go of that opportunity, and he chose psychology as a career. So that was another homework that I gave him, that, okay, so if you had a chance to reverse this decision, so imagine you're 17 again, you're in your 12th standard, and none of these issues exist. So what would your career
Riva, I'm so sorry. You have
Riva,
by mistake you got
hmm,
mute. I'm so sorry.
hmm.
Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Now can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, yes, we can hear you now.
Yes. So that was the therapy part in the second session. By the end of the session, by the end of 40 minutes, we started with breathing awareness and PMR. I explained the process before we went ahead with breathing awareness. I told him what would we be doing. And the interesting thing that happened in this breathing awareness and PMR is, so there is a point where I tend to always give this suggestion that imagine all your thoughts as birds, and these birds are now slowly, steadily going to fly away from you so far that you are going to see a clear sky. So that's how my suggestions usually go. So in this case, when I gave the same suggestion, once the trance was terminated and we had a post session discussion, he told me while in trance, he could definitely imagine the birds. So there was a child sitting on green grass, and he was pointing at the birds and looking at the birds. But these birds were not flying. These birds were all sitting on electric towers and poles. So no matter how much he tried, so A did tell me that I was trying, as you were telling me, let them fly far and far away. I was trying very hard to make them fly, but they were just not flying. So his entire focus stuck to the birds, so he could not even see the sky. So I said, not an issue. That happens at times. Maybe your subconscious mind didn't want those thoughts to go away, or you didn't want those thoughts to go away. They just wanted to stick there, which is not an issue. Today, the entire goal was just to be aware of this process of breathing awareness and PMR, and so that you can learn how to hypnotize yourself. And if you feel relaxed enough in this session, I feel the goal is achieved. To which he responded that, yes, definitely, I do feel relaxed. I was able to follow all the instructions. My body did lose weight. I could imagine things. So I feel we should go ahead with hypnotherapy in the next session. So that's how I ended the second session. In the third session, because the bird flying sky thing did not work, I started the session with first asking him what a safe space for him would look like. So to which he answered it would be a small balcony with plants and a small pond, which he actually even has in his apartment where he stays. But in recent times, he has stopped going even to the balcony. He does not feel like. After the last session, one thing that he did was he confronted his girlfriend. He wanted to understand where the relationship was going, because A was very committed and he wanted to get married, but the girl was denying marriage. So he confronted the girl to ask her what are they even planning to do. So at this, I asked A, when you know this relationship is not healthy, then why are you so obsessed with this girl? To which again he said, I do not have an answer to that, but maybe we can explore a little more, which was okay. After this, he said, we came to conversations, and he happened to disclose this very delicate information to me, that when he was a child, he actually had seen his parents having intercourse. And not only that, according to his memory, he enjoyed watching his parents having intercourse. and that is such a bad thing to do. While saying this, while describing the entire incident, I could see it visibly. It was so painful for him. His eyes were completely filled. He was struggling to keep his eyes open, but he just couldn't shed even one tear. And he just went on continuing with the entire scenario. After that, he also happened to tell me how when he was in sixth standard, he was molested by some guy older to him in school, which according to him again he enjoyed, because of which he started molesting or inflicting the same kind of abuse on his sister who was 4 years younger to him. So this was a very delicate information, after which he went on repeating this again, that I told you I do not deserve anything good in life. All I deserve for all the things that I have done is only pain and suffering. You tend to so he told me that Riva, you think I am a good person because I show that kind of mask.
Again, I think Wi-Fi is.
Riva,
Uh,
would you consider putting off the camera in case there is low internet bandwidth from your end? You can try by putting off the camera and then speak.
I think she's perhaps not getting
Okay,
her voice.
yeah.
So
We'll just wait for her
we'll
till she
wait.
reconnects.
Yeah, we'll wait. Okay. I think she got disconnected. She'll be joining again, isn't it? It's a good case.
Namaste, sir.
Hmm. And namaste. Hmm. Uh, so Riva got disconnected. She'll be joining. We are waiting for her to join. Yes. She's Nidhi. Hello, Nidhi.
Yes, sir. I'm speaking with her on call. She got
Okay.
disconnected. Will you be able to connect soon? Okay, okay. We're waiting for you.
Fine, fine,
Yes, sir. She's trying to
fine.
connect again. There was some internet issue from her end.
Right. Later. We will wait. Yeah, here she is.
We'll have to make her co-host again.
Right.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah.
welcome back,
Yeah.
Riva.
I'm so
You can
sorry. I
start.
do not know how I just got logged off.
Yeah, it's all
No,
right.
it
Please start with the
doesn't matter. It's okay. And you are now co-host, so you'll be able to share again.
Yes, I do.
Start from where you left.
I actually don't even know where it got disconnected.
It
So
was
I'll just
it was third session.
okay. So I'll just start with the third session.
Hmm. Third session, your counseling was going on. The last point in the counseling.
Okay. Yes.
You were discussing the last point, belief identified self, that.
Yes, so the belief that he and we both identified is this, that he does not deserve anything in good in life. He is a person who only deserves suffering because of all the things that he has done as a child. So there was this, I tried reasoning out with him that is it possible that the child was helpless? He did not know what enjoyment also might be. He might just be looking out of curiosity. But he was very sure that no, I don't think I was so dumb at that time. I am very sure I enjoyed it. And if I can enjoy something like that, I definitely deserve only suffering. Because after that, that's what I even did. I inflicted the same kind of pain on people around because the session was so heavy for him. I could literally see him with very teary eyes, but he was not able to shed even one tear because he's not allowed to cry. Also, apparently, this is his words that I am not allowed to cry. Crying is not something that I do. So he was literally blinking constantly. I could see his head literally throbbing because it was so painful for him to relive all those incidences. So I decided not to go ahead with any more intense therapy, even or techniques, even through hypnotherapy. What we did was we just did breathing awareness and PMR, and either post hypnotic suggestion or the suggestion that I gave was only to relax, calm himself down, and feel refreshed because after this session he actually had to get back to work. So this was the third session. I had given him the recording of the breathing awareness and PMR, and I had told him as homework to start listening to it every day so that it also helps him calm down, not just on a daily basis, but also it will deepen the trance when we actually have to do the therapeutic work in trance. To which he was not very good at adhering that homework. He tried once or twice, but that was it. The fourth session was actually directly after 25 days. After that, the previous session, he was supposed to be going on a trip for 20 days. So once he was back, he connected back for scheduling the session. When he came back, he had changed appearance. Actually, he looked a little more fresher. So he said that the trip was actually constructive. He went solo tripping to Uttarakhand, someplace. And after that, he directly went to Goa for more 5 days. So it was a relaxing trip. And he said there was a lot of time on this trip. So he did a lot of thinking and analyzing. So by this time, after the trip, 20 days trip and 5 days, he came back. Also together in this 25 days, what had happened in his life was he had now started looking as editing as a career option. So the homework that I had given him in the second session of if you would reverse this, what would the career option be? So he said he wanted to do something in filmmaking. So I had asked him then, why are you going for IT? If this is what, so you're already regretting it for the last 7 years that you are not able to do editing. Now you will go for IT switch. Again, after 5 years, you're going to be regret, why am I doing IT? So why not start editing? So maybe in the next 5 years, this is something you will reach a place where, okay, you can earn with editing, which made sense to him. And he started looking at it as a career option. So what he was doing now is because of his actual full-time job as a psychologist, he didn't have much time. So on weekends, he started just basic learning editing from one of his friends. He felt a little more at ease, partly also because the trip was something very fascinating for him. So that was also a thing. He confronted his girlfriend again. So now there were discussions going on between him and his girlfriend of what to do, what not to do things. And at the same time, he also realized that, okay, he's not a person who's completely unwanted because another life change that happened was there was another girl who was romantically interested in him. So that also gave him a little kind of confidence that, okay, maybe this girl that I'm dating is not the only option. So in this session, what we were doing was trying to challenge the belief of why I don't deserve anything good. So because the last session we couldn't do any hypnotherapy, therapeutic work in hypnotherapy trance session. So this session I had given more time for that. So I used affect bridge technique in the hypnotic stage this time. So before we could start with hypnotherapy or trance, I told him to select an emotion on which he wants to work. I did not tell him what emotion to choose. I just told him that you can choose any emotion, and let's see where this goes. Let's see if your subconscious wants to work on something or not. And he was like, okay, fine. So once the session was done, so he told me this before the session itself, that I want to work on this emotion of sadness. I want to understand what the sadness is all about, because nothing has happened such that I have to feel so sad. I was like, okay. So when we were doing affect bridge technique, the clue to communicate through me was movement of fingers. So I told him, I'll ask you questions in between, so you can just move any finger whenever you want to communicate. So I asked him, can he see sadness in any shape? So he moved his finger. Yes. So I knew he was following and he did not doze off. Once the session was over, this is what came up. So while in trance, he had reached an age of 5 to 7 years. That child who was actually peeping through the door and watching his parents having intercourse. So he could really witness. So he was focusing on the emotion of sadness. And when I told him go back, and to a place where this emotion was at the most maximum, where you could feel it at the most intensity. So this is the age where he reached, and this is the incident that he witnessed in trance. So he could see the child sitting and watching. He could see his parents and everything. Uh, but what happened eventually is, slowly, steadily, when he looked around in the room where the child was sitting, he could see a black light or black color kind of thing spreading across the entire room. So it slowly started from the ceiling, and then it was now coming down to the walls, and now it was coming down to the floor where the child was sitting. As the darkness was coming, growing, at the same time the walls were also closing. So it felt like he's going to get completely trapped there. So as soon as that happened, in the trance state, he actually, instead of just moving fingers, he actually tried talking or speaking out loud. I could see that effort here, that he was trying to speak something. So I gave a suggestion that, if you want, you can use your vocal cords and communicate if there's something you want me to know. So as soon as I said that, he was like, Riva, मेरे को यहाँ से बाहर निकालो, मेरे को यहाँ पे नहीं रहना. I don't want to see this child. Please get me out of this trance. On such a As soon as he said that, I terminated the trance systematically. I told him, okay, we don't need to stay there anymore longer, you can just start coming back out. I Before coming back out, I again very systematically took him through the stages of, let's say, PMR. I used a PMR again. I told him, maybe you slowly steadily start observing how your feet is now going to get its weight back, and you're coming back to this present place. And slowly steadily every body part we came in reverse. And finally the post-hypnotic suggestion that I gave here was, you will be remembering all that you saw and experienced during the trance. And sorry. Yes. So the post-hypnotic suggestion that I gave him was, you will be remembering all that you are seeing, and we'll be discussing this after the session. And there will be a feeling of lightness and calm when you are out of this trance. You won't be feeling this heavy as you are feeling in the trance session. Post this session, once the trance was terminated, I allowed a 4-5 minutes break for him. He had water, we cooled down, we spoke a little about other stuff. And then I told, if you're comfortable, can we talk what happened? So this is the entire scenario that he told. So when after he discussed the scenario, I happened to ask him that, you were so sure that the child was enjoying it. If the child was enjoying it, how did you reach to the same incident when you were actually focusing on sadness? So it should have been, you are focusing on happiness and then you reach there. How can you reach from sadness to this incident? So to which he was a little confused, at the same time alarmed. I told him, maybe is it possible that the child was actually trapped in that scenario and he was suffering. He had no adult around him to maybe help him to understand what is he seeing, what is happening. And he was so scared and so vulnerable at that time that he did not understand how to process all these emotions. So instead of doing anything about those emotions, he just bottled all those things up and labeled it as okay, it is okay, normal thing. This is normal hai, and I should have fun with it. I should explore, and he just did that. So he said that is a possibility because how else would I reach to this incident with sadness? So I thought maybe you take some time, you think about this, because as far as I understand, a 5, 6 year old cannot enjoy something like this. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about any 5, 6 year old. So if you can just imagine this, if you're talking about a 6 year old child seeing something like this, he is going to be traumatized. Now, how he deals with this trauma is different for every child. Maybe this is how you dealt with it, by trapping everything up, and that's what you maybe saw in a transition. So maybe all the child required was getting help, but instead what you did was blame that child even more, just like maybe some of the adults must have done in your childhood. And with that we ended our fourth session. So at the end of it, I again questioned that if that child was so trapped and suffering, why doesn't that child deserve anything good? Uska to galti bhi nahi tha, right? So even if you say that this is what you have done, all these things wrong now in the adulthood, still if I see a 6 year old, I do not think of anything a 6 year old could do that makes him not deserve anything good or deserve suffering. So he said, okay, I'll think about it. And we went further with the sessions. By the fifth session, again, we had a gap of, I guess, 10 days. His schedule, my schedules were just not matching. After 10 days, when he came for session, he spoke about this time directly. There was no more, I guess he was comfortable enough by this time. So he came and he started talking about that, okay, there are things that you still don't know, Riva. I was like, okay. So he had actually caught his mother having extramarital affair in the past, again, when he was a child of 14 or 15 years old. So, but he did not know how to confront. At the same time, he wanted to tell this to someone, but he did not know whom to tell. So, what he used to do is he used to keep checking, where is my mom going? What is she doing? And all those things. And every time he was doing those things, there was this intense resentment and anger that was just growing internally towards his mother, which in today's cut to today's present scenario led to having a very unattached relationship with his mother. So the relation, as in he could survive in the same premise with his mother, but that's it, just survive. So he does not talk to his parents, he does not share things with them. So he does not even like going back home. So he actually stays in a village, and for working he is here in a city. So he travels weekend to weekend back in village, but that's just for the sake of duty. So he cannot really share any emotional connect with his mother. At the same time, I asked, what about your father? So he said that from childhood, because I was a son, my father didn't really pay much attention to me. He always used to keep shouting at me for my marks and stuff. So I was like, okay, so he was emotionally absent for you. And he was like, yes. We never had any in-depth conversation about anything about my life. But you will be shocked, Riva, that I have a younger sister who's 4 years younger to me, and my father literally played with her when she was a child. So I was also a child, but he never played with me. But he used to make her sit on his lap, and basically वो पैर पे रख के झुलाते हैं types. So he used to do all those things with my sister, but I don't know what I did or why he behaved like that with me. I do not have any good memory with my father. So the only memory I have with my father is 3 years back, when I thought maybe I will try telling my father that I do self harm and suicide. I tried. I have thoughts of suicide, and I'm thinking of attempting it. But at that time also he was just like, okay, theek hai. So there was no such help that he gave, and I that was the first time I cried in front of my father. But that was it. I couldn't feel any connect even after that. So he spoke about this. After this, I asked about, okay, so what happened with your this is what is happening with your parents. What about your girlfriend? So you are with her for 10 years and you're still not able to come to a conclusion. Every time you break up, you all break up, it is her who decides to break up. You are never able to break up with this girl. Why is that? So he spoke about how the girl he was dating was actually the most beautiful girl in the village. and A was very physically attracted to her. So what had happened is, from the time in sixth standard that A was molested, after that for 2 to 3 years, A was sexually molesting his own younger sister. The sister was so young that she did not realize or understand something like that is happening. But when he reached in eighth and ninth standard, he himself realized that no, what I'm doing is wrong, and he stopped. So after that, he was masturbating and trying to find pleasure. And in 10th standard, he met this girl who was the most beautiful girl in the village. So while talking, while analyzing and everything, this is the kind of theory that him and me came up with, that possibly what had happened in 10th standard was this child was already experiencing a lot of void, and he was wanting to have some kind of achievement to feel deserving of something, and this girl felt like that deserving thing. So he went behind her. There was a lot of struggle. That girl's family was a very strict family, apparently, in the village, and she was not allowed to talk to boys. But he used to do all those sneaking and going extra miles to convince her to get into a relationship with him. And then they were sexually also involved in 10th standard itself, and all those things were happening. So the theory that him and I together came up with, what could have possibly happened with the child, because we were talking about the child all this while, that how he did not have a mother on whom he could emotionally rely. He did not have a father who was emotionally absent. He already had trauma from when he was 5 6 years old, Wala incident. Then there was molestation, then there was guilt. There's so many things happening. So what happened in 10th standard possibly was, he was trying to fill that all that void that child was feeling, by trying to win this girl at all cost. So he left his opportunity to go to art school. He stayed into the village even when he had to actually move to city. He fought with his own parents. He cut himself multiple times just so that the girl could stay with him. So he did a lot of things just so that a girl stays. I asked him, why would you do so much for any girl? So he said, she was the only person who made me feel loved, and I don't know what will happen if I let that go. So that is one of the things. So it was not him. So logically he was realizing that, okay, there's a lot of void. I have I have a lot of repressed emotions. I have guilt, I have trauma. He's realizing all of this, but subconsciously his idea of happiness was attached to this girl. So this girl is the only girl who have accepted me. This girl is the only girl who has loved me, and I can't let that go. So that is the reason why he was so obsessed, and he could just not let go of this girl. Even when now, by this session, the girl had given him an ultimatum that, I am breaking up with you. I don't want any kind of contact with you. Do not get in touch with me again. This is what the girl had already told by this session. But he was still like, no, I still have hope. I am going to do better in life, and I'm going to go to her house and I'm going to ask her hand. He still had those kind of ideas. In this session, we also discussed of how A was fearing that if he let goes of this child, okay, the child that was trapped, if that happens, and if this suffering is not the basic aim of life, if I try to challenge these beliefs, that means I will be the one who does not experience pain anymore now. So I told him that's a good thing. So he said, no, that's not a good thing. If I do not have pain, that means I would not have all these philosophies about life, which people tend to like. Like when he says something like this, that life is all about suffering. So people tend to get curious and ask him, what is it? Why do you think like that? So he was liking that kind of attention. He was also very artistic. He used to write very nicely. So he also had this belief that all his uh, creativity, all his artistic features were coming because of this pain. Because there is pain, I am so creative. If I do not have pain, I will not be creative. I don't know who I will be. So there was this fear of why he did not want to free that child. This we got to know because in the hypnotherapy, what we had done is I induced trance through eye fixation and mind distraction technique. and I had prepared a script of forgiving oneself and accepting change. I cannot share the script because it's too huge, but it was around a 10-minute script. So total hypnotherapy took around 30 minutes in this session. 5 to 6 minutes of induction and then termination to another 3-4 minutes. The basic suggestions on the script are focused on we cannot change what has happened in the past, but we can definitely forgive that child, and forgiveness is what is important, and we need to accept change because change is one of the bases of life. So basically, the script revolved around that. It was not my script, honestly. I had looked up for 2-3 scripts on forgiveness and change online of hypnotherapy, and I combined whatever I felt would be suitable for my client, and I had made my own script like that. So this was the 5th session. By the 6th session, I had actually told him as a homework of 5th session to try writing what would happen if he has to actually leave or let go of this idea that he's going to get married to this girl. So that was the homework. So he definitely did not do it. So in the 6th session, again, we had to discuss that, and I told him to try seeing it a different perspective. We also wrote a letter to his mother about what had happened and what are the things that he might want to tell his mother, and he's still not telling her, and acknowledging the void. In this 6th session in hypnotherapy, trance induction was again done through eye fixation and mind distraction. And this time I used dynamic imaginary of butterfly image. Now, interesting thing that happened here is I discussed this whole entire process of how a caterpillar goes through so much, and then it becomes a butterfly, and then I induced trance because I didn't want him to get lost in the imagination. So I made sure that he's very clear what we are aiming at. So post the trance was terminated when I discussed, were you able to imagine? So he said yes. The entire the transformation from caterpillar to butterfly did make sense to me when we were talking. But what happened in trance is once the caterpillar reached to the cocoon level, the butterfly just couldn't come out. So I was stuck in that cocoon. So I don't know why, but I couldn't see the butterfly. I was trying, but I was stuck in the cocoon. All I could imagine was still the cocoon. After that, I have no idea what happened. And then directly there was termination when you told me to come out of that imaginary. So this was the this was the post session discussion. Now, basically, this session, the 6th session, happened around 3 to 4 months back. After that, what had happened within a week, the girl was very clear that she does not want to have any kind of relation with A, and that led to a more depressed state for A. I was in constant touch with him. Like every 1 or 2 weeks, I used to give him a call, ask him if he's doing all right.
Riva, though I told you time is no limit, I think it is going little more detailed.
Yes.
Be little fast.
I'm
Yeah,
just coming
please.
to it. So, sorry. So I used to get in touch. I got in touch with him frequently. He did not try any suicidal attempt or self-harm. But because of the breakup, he did not want to start with hypnotherapy again. So he kept telling me, I am going to come for a session, but just allow some time. I want to get through this phase first, then I want to work. Which I was like, okay. And that's the reason why I told Nidhi I need to get confirmation whenever I get a chance from him. And only then I'll discuss this case. So I asked him for feedback, and I wanted to discuss this specifically because when we talk about hypnotherapy, in this particular case, I got a lot to learn of what to do and what not to do. At the same time, this is still an ongoing case, so I'm also curious how it progresses further. So I asked him if this hypnotherapy helped him. Hypnotherapy sessions combined, however he wants to put it. How was the journey through it? So this was his answer, that it was very tiring and frustrating. All the sessions felt very heavy. I had to leave in middle because of I couldn't conclude on final terms, but the journey is still going on. There were instances where I met the younger me, whom I was avoiding for a very, very long time. So in the first slide I had given, I had mentioned the presenting complaint. So I told him, can you just rate where are you heading right now? So feeling pleasure, now he is able to feel occasionally for very brief moments. The immense guilt he used to feel, but now he's aware that that is guilt. That heavy feeling is guilt, and he still does not know how to deal with it, but it's still there. Drinking has reduced. Uh, the stress earlier was just stress. Now he's learning how to manage it. He's still confused about his career. Uh, Pehle escape was reading books, listening to music, and alcohol. Now his escape is moving towards future. So he's involving more into growing as a psychologist. He's involving more into growing as an editor. Suicidal ideation has gone down from 8 to 1. So 10 being very severe. So it has gone down like that, 8 to 1. And the negativistic or pessimistic view of life that he had, that life is all about suffering and, pain is the only reality. That kind of thoughts now come a little lesser. So from 9, the intensity has gone down to 5. Did any hypnotherapy session help him in particular? So he said, yes, I remember the third session where I had to assume myself as a butterfly and go deeper into my childhood experience. So, and he does not know how it helped seeing that child, but it has definitely changed his perspective towards the trauma that he was experiencing. Would he like to continue the sessions? Yes. So he said, I would like to continue, and my goal would this time be just to resolve my childhood traumatic issues. Would you recommend to others? Yes, definitely. As a matter of fact, I've already recommended. Another question that I couldn't add here, I asked him, has there been any change with his relationship with his parents? So he said that in this entire course of time, he confronted his mother once. He spoke to his father about the things that were troubling. So there has not been a very major change, but now they tend to sit together and eat. So that is something that he says that can be counted as a change, where now I don't feel that heavy when I'm talking to them. It's a little more lighter. So this was my case study. Uh, now, do we have time to go to group therapy, sir? I don't know.
I think let us first discuss on
Discuss.
this case.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. And
Oh, okay.
I think we discuss on this case, and depending upon the time may not be there for group. You
I
can
agree.
you can present it next time.
Okay, so
Next.
sir, the only reason I wanted to combine both of these things
Mhm.
is because the group therapy that I had conducted was for Mumbai Police, and a lot of information from that group therapy is confidential, so I
Mm.
cannot disclose a
Yeah.
lot of stuff.
Mhm.
So that part is very small. So if given an opportunity to present again, I would request to do it with someone else, because that would be a very small thing to be
Okay, yeah,
talking
we will
about.
do like that. There will be
Okay,
two
sir.
people, and you will be presenting short part. But this case is interesting, and now I think you remove your presentation so
Yes,
that
I'll stop sharing.
uh, uh,
Yes.
we keep it open for comments by people. And Prashanto sir is there. Avnish is also there. So I would invite the experts to talk. Veena is there. So please, Prashanto, did you hear the whole thing, perhaps?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Sir,
So,
it was a
so
nice presentation, very good demonstration of hypnotherapeutic process,
mm,
where there is some complex trauma in a case, including lots of guilt, lots of self-blame, and
yes. Mm. Hello, Prashanto. I think Wi-Fi issue is there.
Yeah, I think we lost his connection.
Yeah, please continue. In the meantime, I think in the meantime, Veena, you have some comments.
I
But
missed that part.
yeah,
Any diagnosis?
Prashanto, please continue. Prashanto, you continue, please. Yeah. You can speak like,
Hello. Yeah. Am I audible now? Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I lost the connection.
Right. Please continue.
Yeah. I missed that one, whether the case received any diagnosis.
I mentioned it. I did not diagnose with anything, nor were any
She
So
conveyed
lot of
in bit.
internet disconnection we are facing today.
Yeah, there are a lot of disturbance. Prashant, what she conveyed, are you getting my watch? What she conveyed that
Yes. She didn't
client was
diagnose the case.
psychologist and she did not attempt any testing. She told that he knew all the testing and all, so
Yeah.
he
No,
thought
I'm talking about clinical diagnosis.
clinical diagnosis, I think she has not made.
Because to me, based on the presentation, it was appearing there is a possibility of borderline personality disorder in the client, and
Yes.
we need to be a bit more careful about using hypnotherapy whenever we are dealing with borderline personality disorders, because of their high propensity for dissociation, and many a times there are like pre-psychotic episodes also can be there.
Yes.
So we need to be extra careful about for the others. Dr. Riva is expert.
Right.
For others, the other beginners,
Yes.
we have to keep this in mind, particularly when we are using the strategy like affect breeze. Because
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And
So,
especially when the client had suicidal thoughts and attempt and all this history. So that's a good point. And yes, pressures in hypnotherapy need to take care of that.
Yeah. And to me, probably he needs a very long term of session, and particularly focusing on ego strengthening would be more helpful for him. That is being already going on for him. But if I was dealing this case, I would have gone for affect bridge, but bit later, not very much on the second session or third session.
Yes, that is
because many a times we can make some damage also whenever we, without preparation, if you go for intense emotional experience. For some cases it might work, but majority of the cases it might not work.
It might
so
damage
we need to be more
rather.
We need to be more careful about that. Maybe after strengthening and working on the other hypnotherapeutic approach, it would have been
very
more
true.
helpful. And we will not lose those cases in the follow-up if we go in that way. Otherwise, it's a good demonstration, good learning experience for all of us. Thank you, Dr. Riva.
Yes, Riva, it was good. And you missed one comment by Dr. Prashanta. You got disconnected. So the comment was that you should have gone for proper diagnosis. It seems that he may be borderline personality and with suicidal tendencies. Ego strengthening should have been done first for some time, and then go for this exploration or this affect breeze kind of thing. That is what was major comment by Dr. Prashanto.
Thank you, sir. So I just like to add, I was answering, and by that time, I got disconnected. So the major reason I couldn't go for any diagnosis is because the client was not ready, and at the same time, he had a very valid point. He is the person who conducts this test on everyday basis. So he was like, रीवा कोई भी टेस्ट कर ले मेरे को पता है उसका आंसर्स कैसे मैनिपुलेट करना है या उसके आंसर्स क्या देने हैं. So testing करना है तो I don't want to sit with you is what he started off with. So
generally we do not depend on psychological test for the diagnosis. The diagnosis is mostly clinical. So we
Right,
need
sir.
to have the clinical diagnosis in our mind. And we may not go for any psychological test for the diagnosis.
Oh,
Only
okay.
we use psychological test when there is a confusion, when there are a number of differential diagnosis. Otherwise, there is no need. But diagnosis is not mandatory, but sometimes it is helpful to guide us
Helpful.
what to do, what not to do.
Definitely. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Veena, you have some comment?
Yes, I would like to add one more point here. I missed initial 15 minutes, so the case history I have missed. So I will only be able to talk about his emotional experience. He's talking about a child who is trapped. And if we are able to provide sense of safety to that child, that is one aspect of it, and that can be done in indirect hypnosis also, because he's already in a very high hypnoidal state. When he's talking about being trapped, he's experiencing dissociation at the conscious level itself. So it's very impactful if you communicate. Just imagine the child and provide a sense of safety, being an adult to that child by the person himself, and then have age progression done to the current age, to the current time, wherein this integration is taking place, that the child is no longer a child, the child has grown up to the present age. That would be one aspect. And second would be addressing the guilt. And guilt is one emotion which requires forgiveness by the self itself. So the person's readiness to apologize to oneself before seeking it from outside. So yes, the person sees that what I did was wrong towards my sister or towards XYZ, but yes, you do acknowledge. But are you ready and willing to forgive yourself for what you did, not as an adult, what you did at an earlier stage in your life? So this aspect of you are an adult now and you can take responsibilities for your actions now, for your emotions now, for your thoughts now, provided you are willing to accept and acknowledge what has happened, not run away from them. So this needs to be communicated to him. With respect to suicidal attempts or self-harm is a cry for attention first, and a person's inability to express emotions in a healthy manner. What he needs is verbalizing his emotions. So maybe writing about them or having those safe networks where he can talk about, हाँ बुरा लगा, इस बात के बारे में बुरा लगा. Well, someone else may simply say कि हाँ लगता है, स्वाभाविक भी है. या sometimes someone can provide a different perspective कि इसमें क्या है, ऐसा तो कईयों के साथ होता है, ये इतना भी बड़ा नहीं हो सकता कि वो आपके सारे थॉट्स को ओवरपावर करे. So that safe network, safe zone where he can talk about his unpleasant emotions, which can be taught to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Veena. I'll definitely take all these suggestions in consideration when he comes back for a session. I'll definitely go ahead with that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, Niti, please.
Yeah.
Go.
So I totally agree with what Dr. Veena has presented, because Dr. Veena and me are very much interested in ego state therapy. I try this a lot, and I have studied a lot of research papers about these ego state therapy. Riva, what you were doing actually was a part of ego state therapy. So in these kind of cases, what I have observed in my clinical practice, that when client finds it difficult to forgive himself. So first and foremost, what Dr. Prasanta said, first few sessions should mandatorily be about ego strength. First 3 or 4 sessions. We can give them an audio to listen if they're not coming to clinic, and then we explore the traumatic part. And when we are exploring the traumatic part, it is always helpful to create a ego state which has all the inner strength. For some people, it is their own adult self. In some cases, we can also bring in the personification. Like if a client has certain belief system in Devi Mata, Hanumanji, or a guiding light from the universe, any kind of personification which is filled with love, light, and it accepts you for who you are, and introduce that necessary ego state and bring it in front of the child that, see, you don't accept this child, that's fine, but this ego state or this personification of deity or whatever loves and accepts everybody. So that can also help in breaking that disconnect that I don't want to deal with this child. So I find this personification and inner strength, invocation of inner strength, a very useful method. Probably it can help you also. It was a wonderful case. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Nidhi ma'am. Actually, I haven't used ego state ever. So maybe I'll start looking up for it, and then I'll try if I can use this with him. So thank you so much. If you have
Yeah.
any research papers, or if you have any scripts
Yes,
that I can look up for,
I'll
please,
share in the group, in the
definitely.
hypnosis group. I'll do that.
Thank you
There
so
are
much.
many, and what you did was similar to ego state therapy, but I do it under the name of, like what Veena described, is partial age regression. You as an adult go into that tunnel and meet the child, and like that, and then come back with the child growing up with you or something like that. So that also is a way in which it can be dealt with. Ego state also could be good. Yes, Sanjay, please, you are welcome.
Thank you, sir. It was a very nice case to witness and very heavy also. But there are some points which are to be connected right from the childhood. It started with witnessing sexual intercourse between the parents. That was how it started, like this year. And for a 6-year-old child, that was very strong. Means it was strong, overwhelming for the child. But he said that I was having enjoyment. On one side there was severe guilt, and on one side there was enjoyment. Then the thing started with the this infidelity of the mother, which was there, which he noticed. Then he molested his sister. That was being noticed like this year. That again he started recycled back. Then also he had relations with girlfriend like this year. Is it not going to what we call as a sexual addiction, which comes like this, a preoccupation, then the impulse, release, and guilt, which is being followed, which most of these people they usually have, and there's a lot of guilt which they take, and that is the only way they release like this year, and therefore they feel very bad internally. So you start with bad feel internally, then impulse come, they want to feel better, they release it, and again the cycle continues like this year. This is a story of sexual addiction, which is a very interesting work done by Keynes like this year. So they just I want to what else?
So, sir, I would just like to add, I did not think from this perspective, but one of the reasons, in the recent times, he is not sexual. He has not been sexually involved with anyone for the last 4-5 years. So I
If
that
you
was one
give
of the
me
reasons. I'm just saying that was one of the reasons I couldn't. I did not look at this perspective. But maybe now, when you're pointing it out, I can, whenever we start with sessions again, I can try understanding if that is something that's happening with him.
if you give me 2 minutes, just 1 minute like this, I will bring very two important books. They are very interesting to go like this. And there is one person who is working very severe. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah? I'll just come.
So, anybody else has any comment in the meantime? Avnish was there, perhaps.
I think two
Yeah,
participants
yeah,
have
I'm a
raised
silent
hands.
spectator
Yeah.
learning
You want to?
Pratibha.
from all the psychologists.
Hmm.
So
We are learning.
today
You are
I am
right.
learning.
No,
Today I am on learning mode.
I am also in a learning mode. That's good, because we need to learn
So
many things from psychologists.
this is one of the book, which can you see, Contrary to Love, and the author is Patrick Carnes,
Okay.
Carnes. Another
Okay.
book which is very interesting, Out of Shadows.
Out of
Shadows.
Okay.
You may
Out
put
of
all
these
these
are
titles on our group.
okay.
Yes,
These
sir,
are
please
the
share.
Put the
images
titles
of
on the
these two
group.
books in the hypnosis group now. It will be helpful
Yes,
for all
yes,
of
yes,
us then.
yes, yes. And he
Imagine-
clearly does. And he has worked in this field of sexual addiction, which is a very classical field which is there. And when you go in those cases, exactly these things happen, most of people. And that is the only way to release their emotions. And they feel trapped and they cannot share anything to anyone because of the hidden guilt which is. And they usually start observing their sexual intercourse with the parents. This is the story.
Very nice. Thank you, Sanjay. And
Yeah.
put the cover page.
I will put
please.
I will put it.
Right. Pratibha,
Yeah.
please.
Good
Pratibha,
evening,
your
sir.
good
Yeah,
evening.
yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Looking at the pattern of the behaviors or whatever from the case presentation given, somewhere I wish to agree with Dr. Prashanto that there is an element of personality disorder. Looks like there is an element of personality disorder out here, and more than sexual addiction, I think this is more a pattern of means as part of the symptom of borderline personality you have impulsive behaviors and people involving in it can be sexual behaviors, can be spending money, can be different impulsive behaviors that they can get into. So maybe I mean uh, how we treat personality disorders is different from the typical anxiety, depression, or any other thing. It has to be a little more in-depth and little more careful approach towards personality disorder as such, and even more borderline personality disorder is what I would like to comment upon. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Very true. So, that is what Prashant also conveyed. So, a little cautious, need to be little cautious, but very nice case, very well presented, and fine. So, we learned a lot. Hmm? Thank you, Riva. And
Thank you so much, sir.
thank you all my colleagues and students. So we close the meeting, Nidhi.
Yes, sir. And I think there are questions in people's mind, and I would just request them to redirect these questions in the hypnosis group. Probably we can continue with the discussion there. We have Dr.
Yes.
Dayal Mirchandani and other experts as well there. So they will
Right.
also help us in getting
Because
clarity.
we are
And
miss
thank you, Riva, for this wonderful presentation. Yes.
we are missing Dr. Dayal for last couple of sessions. No, last time
Yes,
also
sir.
he was not there. So I'll be writing a message to him why we are not seeing him. Huh? And yes, so put your questions in the group. That's good suggestion. Right.
We can continue the
Okay.
discussion over there.
Right.
Thank
Oh,
you. Thank you so much for this
Thank you,
all the
sir.
opportunity.
best. All the best to all. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.